The Black Myth Wukong previews are here, and they're glowing. Many are saying it's a Souls game, but not quite a Souls game, so that should be exciting to people who are maybe wanting to stay away from a game that may have that all too challenging or frustrating combat. And I argued recently in my most recent upload, so go check that out. It talks about how Wukong is going to face challenges. And I argue in that video how I think this game could get up on the Game of the Year podium, but I think there are two pretty significant challenges that would potentially get in the way of that. So make sure you check out that video. I want to know what you guys think. I kind of walk through some of the things that have happened with the engine as well as games like this, and I referenced Lies of P. Now, if you go watch that video, it kind of sets the tone. You know what I think, and now I want to know what you think. So good morning and good afternoon and good evening to everybody, guys. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Thank you for piling into those videos. We greatly appreciate that. It's a huge help to us. We put a lot of work into those, and we knew that the previews might land after we made the video, but since one of the previews leaked, we thought we can still make an informed video about here's what people are saying, here's the general consensus or thought about this game, and yet I'm worried, it could face those significant challenges. So this is going to be a preview roundup where I am going to comb through a bunch of different previews and look at them with you guys, and let's just see what people are saying, right? Are they landing on the same conclusion? Are they all thinking similar things about the fact that, like, it's not a Souls game, but it is, but it's not, or wherever people want to classify it? And also just, its contention or its potential to be a contender for Game of the Year. I think this is going to be, one of the sleeper hits this year. I do. I think we've been watching this one for a long time. I remember the first time gameplay showed up 4 years ago, I thought, man, that is a good-looking game. That looks like it'd be a lot of fun. Also, keep in mind that later today, I will be doing a show with Kirk. I will be doing a show with Kirk, and it will be about Fable, asking the question, what's going on with Fable? And I still haven't reset that scene. We'll have to go, yeah, we can just go full screen on these. That's fine. At least my capture card's not like jacked up. Some of these websites now like make it to where your capture card doesn't work. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm not like pulling up Netflix and re-streaming content or something. Looks fire. PC Gamer says, my first 2 hours of Wukong were a flurry of demanding boss fights and unbelievably pretty characters in a surprisingly sparse world. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I got the impression that this was going to be some jam-packed open world. It felt like it was going to be more of a linear style, set piece game where you kind of go from one, really good looking set piece to another. I never saw anything in the trailers that made me think it was going to be this big, huge open world like a Horizon or a Ghost of Tsushima or something. I won't be buying day one, but I'm just here to support. Well, I appreciate that, Brooklyn Breed. Guys, do me a favor. Go through that ritual. Smash that like button. Joker Quinn, Han shot first, and so did you. Coming out swinging to start the day. You guys did an incredible job last week. You guys unlocked all the things. Unfortunately, the scary game turned out to not be that scary. I didn't realize that Madison VR was more of a puzzle game, so it didn't really suit our aims, unfortunately. But this Friday night, I'll be streaming with Hilly, and the goal this week is 500 members. If you guys hit that, we're gonna put Hilly through the ringer. We're gonna make things hard on him. It'll be a fun time. So you don't want to miss that. If you guys have never seen a Hilly hijink stream, they're a blast. Bro Sexy comes in with 24 months in a VIP. Definitely one of my most anticipated games. Good vibes and positive thoughts for this one. Well, let's take a look at the first preview while you guys are all smashing the like button. Oh, my scenes are all jacked up. It's a good thing that we're not recording these like we used to. There we go. Eugene says, not really much between bosses from what I read or understand. I tend to like that, though. I think that, that's something that can be enjoyable in a game. Like, I genuinely sometimes just want to go from one fight to the next. There's been times in Lies of P where I've said that. I'm like, man, I'd like to just get to the next boss, like goofing around with enemies, hitting you with bombs, or, you know, platforming that can be frustrating. It's like sometimes I just want to get to the next fight. You know what I'm saying? Let's see, actually, before we look at this, let's look at some of the comments on the latest upload. We like to feature people who take the time to watch those uploads and leave comments. Let's see what people are saying here on the video. Already a ton of comments. Loch Ness just says a bunch of hype, and we're just going to say hype. Thank you. And then this guy here, Frank Johnson, says Lies of P is the third best Souls game ever, only behind Dark Souls and Sekiro for me. That is high praise. I actually referenced Lies of P in the video. I'm like, Lies of P got significantly snubbed, and basically it was because it was too similar to FromSoft games, which is kind of a weird way to judge games in this environment, since, you know, Elden Ring basically had tons of stuff directly from previous FromSoft games, and that's fine. That's not a reason to criticize a game. Smooth Jazz says, banger show as always. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that. We put a lot of work into those videos. Alexander Smith commenting here says, really excited for the game. Here's hoping it has enough unique personality that people won't hold its genre against it. I think one of the things in its corner is the fact that it's not really a Souls game. You beat King of Puppets? Yeah, I beat King of Puppets. I really thought that was a fun fight. The robot part, or I guess not robot part, the puppet part, it seemed like the best thing to do was to like really try to get up close to him. Some of his stuff would go like over top of me. I felt like I was cheesing him, but I just stayed right on his ankles, and it seemed to really help. Lies is 100% a Souls game. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So, yes, Lies is a Souls game. This is not. Maybe I misspoke. I wasn't trying to say Lies is not a Souls game. What I was saying is Lies got heavily compared to FromSoft games, and that ended up hurting it in a lot of the reviews. And then people are saying that this game is not a Souls game. So I felt like that was really unfair to Lies of P, where like Lies of P basically gets all of its scores dropped because it's too quote-unquote similar to FromSoft games. And then this game is like, I was worried that's going to be something similar. Is there going to be like, yeah, it's too similar to all these other games? And it's like, well, no, there's no blocking, there's no parrying. It's all about the dodging. And people are saying it's a lot more like an action RPG. Oh, somebody in chat said Lies isn't a Souls game. Why would somebody... Lies ain't no Souls game? Why would you say that? Souls like is a compliment. Oh, I mean, I don't know why you would say that about Lies of P. Like, I was like, what in the world? I was like, that everything about it is makes it a Souls game. What do you mean? It quite literally has all of the core parts and pieces of a Souls game. Yo, TJ Triz says, have you or anyone in chat seen talk of a PS5 version? They all seem to play on PC. Hoping the PS5 version runs okay. I thought somebody said the other day there was previews before they played on PS5 and it was fine. Nintendo Direct. Oh, there's a Nintendo Direct tomorrow at 10 a.m. Did they announce it? We don't do Nintendo Direct. I've done them recently, and this one could be a big one. So we'll probably actually cover it, to be honest with you. I think there's also a game coming out tomorrow, like Still Wakes the Deep or whatever. I don't know if we'll play that or not. Henry Heck commented on the Black Myth Wukong video, and he said, definitely looking forward to this. Looks like they've adopted for a story, the story super well. Fun fact, Goku was based on this character. Also, Lies of P was done a great disservice. These mobile devs have come performance recently and give us amazing games with amazing performance. Well, yeah, I don't know how it's crazy that these mobile devs are doing it. They're pulling it off. No blocker parry is really odd. I thought the same thing, Eugene. I did. That's why I want to look at these previews with you guys. Sorry, I'm kind of making you wait. I want to look at these previews with you guys because I'm curious if anybody took issue with that. Because for me, when I watched the footage in the footage that leaked, I was actually like, oh, I think I get what they're going for. It's like they're going for this super fast, agile, and it looks like when you have like a perfect dodge, it like leaves behind. Maybe it's an ability that they've got turned on in their skill tree or something. I don't know. But he like leaves behind a version of himself when he gets what I think is a perfect dodge. Like he gets out of the way at the exact right time. even with the block and parry, it would not make it a Souls game. I don't think anybody's arguing that that would make it a Souls game. I think it does seem strange to have melee-based combat that's very quick and very intense, and that the fights themselves seem obviously inspired by Souls games because they're very intense, these big giant creatures that are moving fast and they're swinging and everything else. And for him to not be able to use that staff to like block or parry, that does seem like a strange decision. But I'm open to it because I'm a huge fan of parrying. I am. But I think by the time I'm done with Lies of P, I'll be ready for a game that doesn't really require it. Like all the perfect blocking in Lies and I loved it in Sekiro too. Sometimes it's nice to not have to mess with that, just get out of the way is a different strategy. Personally, I'm open to them doing something different with combat with Sekiro, as long as it works well. He has a parry that turns his body to stone. It's an ability you unlock later. Is that a parry, though? That's shape-shifting. That's the shape-shifting. So you have spells and shape-shifting, and as I understood it, the shape-shifting is like, it's like a limited thing. You can't just do it whenever you want. You do it, it lasts for a little bit of time, and then you switch back. A block or a parry is something that you basically always have available, unless, of course, you spam it, obviously. Then you're going to get messed up in some games. You're going to mistime it, or, some games have, like, it affects your stamina or your posture if you're overdoing it. What game was that? Yeah, that's in Sekiro, right? You reset by... How do you do that? Oh, my gosh, I have not played that game in such a long time. Don't you reset your posture bar by holding up the block or something? Is that how that works? I can't remember. I haven't played that game in such a long time. Is that the game I'm thinking of where you can kind of control your posture bar with the way that you block? But yeah, I don't know if the shape-shifting into a rock would necessarily count as a parry. It might actually parry the enemy if you time it right, but I don't know if that would be classified in that way. If he isn't using the staff to block and parry, that sounds more like a Devil May Cry style game then. Well, it seems like it's in its own lane. It really does seem like it's in its own lane, Ashen. You hold up block and you sit still. That's what it was. That's what it was. I remember, I was like, I know I did that in the game where, like, I remembered basically getting my posture back up, and that's what it was. You would back away and you would, like, hold it up. It's missing those features that makes me think the combat will be very basic and mashy. All right, well, let's get into the previews then. Let's see what people say, Eugene, because people are saying it's really, it's actually really hard, and there's others saying that it's not a Souls game. Hang on. I was trying to make sure nobody else left new comments. Game of the Year is very open at the minute. There's no standout game for me. It's got a good chance with Dragon's Dogma 2, maybe Kingdom Come Deliverance, Helldivers 2, and Rebirth. I agree. I don't know if it's locked up right now, right? I don't know if it's locked up. That it could really go to anybody. Cybersword agrees. This is my Game of the Year contender. I'm excited for this one. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. All right, let's check out these previews. Well, you guys already heard from the pure Xbox one, so let's see. What we're looking for is, the question on the table, and this is going to come. This first one's going to come from CGM Mag Online. Okay, this is what they say. They say that it is a journey to the unknown. Game Science delivered one of the most stunning games of Summer Game Fest 2024. Okay, this guy is saying that it's been on my radar, fan of the challenging action, developed by this studio, Epic Quest. Got it. Okay, we don't need to read all the fluff, we want to get to the meat. Okay, for those unfamiliar with the story, it is considered one of the most influential works of Chinese literature, and Sun Wukong is an iconic character, so we're going to probably get a lot of backstory in a lot of these. Now, this guy's saying, to put it bluntly, it's one of the best looking games I've ever played, built on the Unreal 5 engine. The environments are lush and detailed. Character models, especially the various beasts and demons that Wukong battles, are intricately designed. I especially liked the bear. I thought the bear looked really, really good. Sorry, I'm not filling the screen with the text. I'm used to doing this half screen, but I don't have my half screen scene built right now. Running the game on a high-res display with ray tracing is a visual feast. Okay, so graphically, I knew it was going to look good. I actually am now curious how that, where this is going to land on console with performance-wise. This guy says, it may have captured my attention with the visuals and the story, but I stayed for the gameplay, which is simply fantastic. Wukong primarily fights with his iconic magic staff that can extend and shrink at will. He can quickly chain together light and heavy attacks in different stances: smash, thrust, and pillar. Having only unlocked one additional stance during my 2-hour play session, I'm intrigued to see how these play in the overall gameplay. More on that in a bit. Now, Pure Xbox argued that they thought the stances were really fun and that they saw a lot more that you could do with them. And they also said that the shape shifting really elevated the content. That's a cool looking boss right there. The tiger looked really impressive. Yeah, I thought that bear looked incredible in the Pure Xbox footage, which we can check that out in a moment. The Smash Dance is where you start the game and is all about combining light and heavy attacks to take down your enemies quickly. It's incredibly fluid, and if you've played any Souls-like games in the past, you will feel right at home in Sun Wukong's shoes. Now, this is not to say that the game is easy. While you can make short work of the many basic enemies you will encounter, many stronger enemies will require much more work and actual skill to make a dent. I cannot stress enough how important each skill in your arsenal in the game. While you can mash your way through the first few creatures, once you get to a boss, you need to know how the game works and master he put dogging. That's not the word you want to put there. Master dodging, attacking, and learning the patterns to have any hope of winning. I will admit, I got cocky early on in the demo, but once I fought a boss, that level of confidence quickly drained as I was forced to learn the timing and skills and work on my experience level to have any hope of taking anything down. So it doesn't sound like you're just going to be able to mash your way through this, Eugene. I mean, that I didn't even know this. I've not read this. This guy's speaking directly to, one of your, I guess we could call it concerns, right? That hey, you're going to mash your way through a couple of people, and then after that, you're going to have a hard time. Yeah, and you got to master dogging. Good night. Much like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, Black Myth Wukong is a game that rewards persistence and patience and feels incredibly rewarding as you learn the many entireties of the game. Even though the game can be incredibly challenging, it is never unfair, and you will have all the tools you will need to take down an enemy when you first walk in. When you first walk in, they can seem impossible. I cannot describe how excited I was when the game finally clicked, and I managed to take one of the bigger bosses down and actually win without using all my healing items or getting frustrated halfway through. Okay, so it sounds like this guy got into a flow state with the game after, maybe struggling for a little bit. Look at the detail on that. That's going to be insane if it looks like that, like while moving. The sense of accomplishment translates into learning more skills and stances and being able to combine them. I liked how it worked when I finally unlocked the pillar stance. It was incredibly useful in some fights and added a new level of challenge as I progressed in the game. It allows you to sit on the staff and bring it down on enemies. As I mentioned before, dodging is also a key part of combat. Perfect timing can be the difference between winning and losing, but the pillar stance adds a new challenge to the mix and gives you more options when you find yourself in challenging fights. Yeah, all of the dog jokes in chat. You guys are great. Based on my hands-on preview, the combat feels as good as it looks, with a responsive, weighty, and satisfying feel that I immediately found myself comparing it to Sekiro and Bloodborne, though it felt different in many notable ways. It all comes down to how the game approaches challenges and the degree to which it punishes the player. And while it is difficult, Black Myth Wukong feels more balanced than some other Souls-likes. This is not to say that it is easy by any means, but it scaffolds the player in a way that no boss or enemy feels impossible. It may be difficult, but if you take the time, you'll be able to take on anything. As someone who loves a good challenge but doesn't want to spend hours banging my head against a boss, that's music to my ears. Yeah, I would agree with this. I'm at a point now where, that is one of my struggles with Lies of P, is that if I only can play for like an hour or two, maybe an hour and a half, it's really hard to sit down knowing I may get really far and die or get to a boss fight and not be able to beat him, things like that. I think it's easy sometimes to look at games that are difficult and think, oh, you just have to get good. And a lot of it does come down to time commitment. Like if you can put in long play sessions with games like Sekiro or Lies of P or Elden Ring, if you can put in long play sessions, I think that dramatically changes your ability to excel, right? What about the game is Souls-light? I mean, they haven't gotten into it, Paul, but like you have healing, and the healing resets when you rest, and you know the style of combat is very much reminiscent of what people have seen in other games, and it reminds them of a Souls game. But it's the one review that leaked, the Pure Xbox review. They said that they felt like it was more like an action RPG with like a Souls influence. It's like you could tell like Souls games had kind of influenced it, but it was an action RPG. It didn't feel like a Souls game. While it is difficult, Black Myth Wukong feels more balanced. Oh, I already read that. Sorry. Yeah, there's the bear. There's the bear. You can see him there. He's on fire. Yeah, the enemies respawn. Yeah, stuff like that. Wukong has a lot more up its furry sleeve than just melee combat. He can wield elemental magic and even shapeshift into various creatures like a cicada or a hulking beast. One really cool ability allows you to take the form of enemies you defeat and use their weapons. This may sound like a minor new ability on paper, but in practice it can be a game changer. Not only does it allow you to take on the role of one of the enemies you have defeated, but it also gives you a whole new health bar, which adds to the challenge and proves invaluable in later fights. I really liked this. They did something kind of like that in Timesia. You could like grab their weapon. Like, I forget what the mechanic was called. I liked that. I thought that was cool. I thought it added an extra element of choice to fights. Ryan Decipher with the $10 super chat tip says, I've seen various comments stating Black Myth Wukong seems to be another Souls-like. To me, it looks more like a AAA Kane of Bridge of Spirits with Souls elements. Healing Gourd, bonfire save system, etc. Yes, and many of the previews, I think, are touching on the fact that it's a Souls game, but not really. They're like, it's kind of not. I think everybody kind of expected that when they saw the trailers, but in actuality, it's very much not. It's I think everyone has been saying it's more approachable. I could see people comparing it to the Souls series, and while here, right on time, right? And while that is fair in some respects, the open world is not one of them. The game is a much more linear affair, and while it will not feature fully open world environments, it will feature large, visually distinct areas to explore, such as forests filled with fallen Buddha statues, ruined temples, and cliffs, all of which have a unique feel to them that feels lifelike and rich in story. As you explore the world, you will find shrines. These points on the map act as checkpoints and places to equip spells and abilities, adding some light RPG customization to your playstyle. The other reason people are saying it's more like an action RPG, this is at least what Pure Xbox said. They said that they opted for a traditional skill tree, and because they opted for that traditional skill tree, you could pretty much just build yourself the way that you wanted. You weren't suddenly being like, well, I really like that ability my friend told me about, and then you have to go find the armor or find the weapon that allows you to do that. So that, to me, I think is another thing that people will find a little bit more approachable, is that you can just play the game, level up, and fill out your skill tree. As with anything like this, I'm tempering my expectations a bit, since Black Myth Wukong is the studio's first game, but everything I've seen so far, from the jaw-dropping visuals to the stylish combat to the rich world based on Journey to the West, has me counting down the days until it's released. If Game Science can deliver on the potential shown so far, Black Myth Wukong could be a legendary action RPG that provides a refreshing take on the Souls-like genre. So yeah, so this guy here, Brendan seems to think that it does kind of fall into the Souls-like genre. You know, I mean, let's go find here. Let's watch this one. Here is the one that leaked, and I really want to show you guys I want to show you the bear. The bear fight, to me, is the fight. These big, huge guys with the big, huge heads we've seen in numerous trailers, but the bear, to me, these are the kind of fights I love. I love the fact that there is this very, very intentional design choice to just make him huge, hulking, and terrifying, and yet I feel like you can read the telegraphs fairly well. Okay, we got a good one here from GamesRadar. All right. Check out that one as well. But I like when something is this large and this challenging and this scary, and yet you can see his swings coming in, whether it's a backward slam of the ground there or like a jump, you know, or when he was like swinging left to right. It looks like he's got a phase 2 maybe here where there's fire incorporated, where, you know, his arms are on fire. I just think the presentation is just so good. I really do. I think the presentation is just absolutely stellar. Yeah, I've been into Bear since that trailer to Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, and this is the other thing I loved in the leaked footage is the frog. I think the frog is super cool. I think he's dope. Like, such cool character design in this. I'm telling you, I think this game's got a lot of charm, and I think one of the things that's going to work in its favor is that from what we're hearing from the previews, it doesn't have a lot of shared commonality with other Souls games. Like, that seemed to be what really hurt Liza P with the review outlets, is they were like, oh, it's so similar to other FromSoft games, and then they just took points off for that. It wasn't like, oh, they made design choices that were bad, or they did things that we didn't think were good. It was, well, it's similar to other FromSoft games, so they took points off. See how when he dodges, he like leaves behind a version of himself? I can't tell if that's a perfect dodge or if he's using some ability that's not his normal dodge. Because he's rolling on some of these and he's just kind of getting out of the way. But on other ones, it's like he leaves behind. Yeah, it seems like he has a roll and then he has a dash. It's like when he leaves the version of himself behind, it's almost like he just dashes instead of rolls. Frog is jacked. Yeah, that frog was looking pretty big. That was dumb to take off points for, in my opinion. I have a video on this. Yeah, he just did it there. I think it's a dash. Yeah, it's like a one-step dash, and when he rolls, it doesn't seem to do it. So it does seem like there's two different ways to evade. It seems like there's like a one-frame dash and like a two-frame roll where, again, I don't know if they're utilizing iframes with the roll or if it's literally a game where you have to actually physically get your character out of the way. Looks like a Game of the Year game. I think this game is a contender. I really, really do. I think it's a scrappy little game that's going to surprise a lot of people. I honestly like that. I like when games kind of come out of nowhere, when they were able to do it with It Takes Two, was able to really land in, it didn't just get a nomination, it won. And I don't think anybody saw that game kind of coming. It kind of came out of nowhere. Leaving a fake clone behind is a beautiful touch. It really looks cool in the middle of the fight, to have that speed. I think the speed of the enemies too, and just the fluidity of their movements, is one of the things that really made people think, oh, this is going to be a Souls game. It's going to be super challenging. Which the previews that we're checking out, they certainly are saying, hey, this is a tough game. Like, while it's not a Souls game, it's also not going to be a walk in the park. He's scrappy. Dogging comment again. Oh my gosh. Shut up, Donnie. Let's check out. We got people sending previews in, and a GamesRadar preview was sent in here by let's see. Let me see if I can't get my half screen scene built again. We don't need the image. And if we go, where am I? I would be here. And then we don't need that. And then there we go. My half scene. No, here's my half screen scene. Okay, so Black Myth Wukong is easily among the best looking RPGs I've played in years. And after 2 hours hands-on, I see why the devs don't call it a Souls-like. Okay, here we go. Is it a Souls-like? Guys, do me a favor. If you're enjoying this Black Myth Wukong preview rundown, where we're looking at the previews, we're looking at the gameplay, I believe everybody was supplied with the same B-roll. I don't think they were able to capture. But make sure you guys take a quick second and hit that like button. Hit that like button. It'll help this video find more people. And so let's see what they say here. Black Myth Wukong developer Game Science just calls this game an action RPG. Let me give you guys a bump in text size. Let's get this a little bit bigger on screen for you. It specifically doesn't call it a Souls-like, and I kind of see what it means. This is a game where you fight plentiful bosses, dodge a lot while budgeting stamina, and rest at bonfire-esque checkpoints to refill your healing flask. But is that all that defines a Souls-like? I would say no, partly because a lot of game developers have told me as much, and this is also a game with skill trees, color-coded gear rarities, one main weapon, and more linear level design, which all clash with the Souls Bible from Software's Black Sheep, Sekiro notwithstanding. I don't know. I mean, I actually think Sekiro is its own thing, right? Oh, okay. They're trying to get me to schedule something with my cardiologist. I was like, who is calling me in the middle of the day? Okay. That's based on 2 hours of slightly condensed Summer Game Fest demo that's highly subject to change, but Black Myth Wukong feels more like a more modern, like the more modern God of War games, and less like Dark Souls so far. It also feels great to play, looks stupidly good in motion, and might be the best action RPG I've experienced since Lies of P. That's interesting. I mean, I know that people consider Lies of P in games like it an action RPG, but Lies of P is also a Souls game, so I'm not sure if maybe they're just saying in general they haven't felt this impressed by a game in a while or whatever. My demo begins with the monkey hero, referred to as the Destin 1 Wukong, based on the Sun Wukong from Journey to the West, collaborating okay, Black Myth Wukong, graphically, painstakingly detail. Okay, that's fine. I want details on the game here. The problem is that the levels are so incredibly detailed that it's frequently unclear which areas are actually explorable, so I ran into loads of invisible walls and dead ends. That said, exploration was pretty minimal because the demo felt more like a boss rush and short sight-seeing intermissions. I'm told that the full game is more open with several side paths, NPC quests, and secrets, but the world of Black Myth Wukong does not give me a Dark Souls, let alone Elden Ring kind of vibe. It is, however, a fascinating place. I actually prefer the more linear set-piece design that we're seeing in more and more games. I actually prefer that now. I do, since Lies of P. Like last year, yeah. It's been a long time, I guess, for him. Inspired by the novel Journey to the West, it revels in refreshing, curious quirks of Chinese mythology, from shape-shifting shenanigans, like turning yourself into a peach or your hair into a stick of incense, to wandering wonders introduced in the utmost casualist. It presents a world of such phenomena you're commonly expecting. Okay, we're just getting like word soup here. I want the battle. Like, what's the combat like? Why do you say it's not a Souls-like is what I want. I rushed through hoping to see staff in hand. Out of the box, even with no upgrades on its expansive skill tree, Black Myth Wukong is kinetically satisfying still. It took some getting used to. The dodge feels responsive and forgiving, but for the perfect dodge, it almost seems like you have to dodge when you get hit rather than right before an attack connects. It's like wading into cold water, uncomfortable and a little scary at first, but once you're in, perfect dodging is actually pretty nice. There's no real parry, it's all dodging all the time. You can at least twirl your staff to deflect some range attacks, like a ridiculous rapid-fire arrow salvo from one standard enemy, who frankly deserves a promotion. Light attacks come out quickly, flow well, and sound terrific. The thwip of your staff catching the air, the woody thunk of pummeling enemies, but heavy attacks are a bit of a misdirect. You don't have heavy attacks in the traditional sense. You have charge attacks and combo breakers, combo breaker, which should only be used in certain ways. If you tap the heavy attack normally, you'll get locked into a long animation for a swing that doesn't deal much damage. I got the sense that you aren't supposed to do this at all. Instead, you should hold the heavy button for a moment to build up a charge, then use that charge attack as an opener or gap closer. There's a great tempo to it. A charge attack was enough to one-shot or heavily stun more basic enemies I encountered, so I got a lot of use out of it. So it doesn't sound like you're just switching between like a light and a heavy with respect to like, oh, one takes a little bit longer and does a little bit more damage. It sounds like one is a little bit more of like you're rhythmically charging it and you're using that to, like he's saying, to like close gaps. I've been doing that in Lies of P. I changed the handle on the starter blade and I cranked it up to a technique A, and the heavy sort of closes the gap. And I use it on openers all the time if an enemy's if they're in a neutral. If they're in a neutral stance and I can tell that they're not going to do anything, I can get in. I use it a lot for that. One of the first upgrades I bought, spending skill points, which is not Souls-like fashion, use XP not lost at Bloodstain as a Bloodstain on death, was the ability, okay, so you don't lose your stuff. That's what this is saying here. Use XP not lost as a Bloodstain on death. This is phrased very weird. Anyways, the ability to build a charge while sprinting, almost like a hammer, the hammer in Monster Hunter. Reader, I do not regret this decision. Granted, I don't regret any upgrades because you can reset your skill tree whenever, but this is a core ability. I was also quick to improve the speed and the distance of my dodge, reduce the stamina cost of dodging and sprinting, and ensure dodging doesn't interrupt my light combo. If they nail a God of War feel, says Anthony, then I'm for it. That's my favorite IP in the last 5 years. I'm just laughing at the Silk Song memes in the Discord because Nintendo's doing an event tomorrow. Bosses forced me to play differently. I beat the 7 or so bosses I encountered, minus a hidden one I can't talk about, which ranged from hulking beasts to nimble spellcasters, and each fight had a distinct rhythm. Some were humanoid and unleashed long weapon combos and forced me to dodge repeatedly. Others were lumbering giants that wield Herculean strength capable of devastating AoE attacks that demand careful positioning. These were all superbly animated with clear tells, even on my first attempt, and I was able to beat several bosses in one attempt, though others took upwards of 5 because the game does have some bite. I could get a sense of how they'd move and when to dodge. On a personal note, I was relieved to see very few of the absurdly delayed dodge baiting attack animations that have infected so many modern action RPGs. So he doesn't like when they do the fake outs. I actually like a good fake out in a fight because you take the bait, the first couple of times. But then I think there's something incredibly satisfying about once you know it and you read it and you call it, you're like, yeah, that's a fake out. And then you properly land the parry. The one clown fight on the way to the opera house, he got me a couple times with that. He would do like he would spin and it was really fast at first. It was like ding, 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 ding. And then he would kind of wait. And then, wham, he would do like one final follow-up. And I liked that. I liked being like, there's a fake out. Like, it felt like he was going to swing much faster and much sooner than he would. And he got me with it a couple times. And there's something very, very, I think, satisfying when you figure it out. The Nintendo Direct live stream is going to focus on games coming in the second half of 2024. There will be no mention of the Nintendo Switch successor during this presentation. They are literally saying that on Twitter. They're basically like, you aren't getting information about the next Switch tomorrow. They flat out tweeted that and just said, no, you're not. It's just games coming the rest of this year. So the question tomorrow is, does Nintendo have anything in the tank that could take on Astro? Because like Astrobot's going to have, I think, a killer running for awards. JW with 40 months, just looking at the last 40 months. I'm happy with how the channel has done, says JW, and I'm glad to be part of a great community. Appreciate you all, and especially you, Lono. Good day. Thank you so much, JW. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, smash that like button. Let's get 200 likes on the count. We've had one gifted member today. We're going for 500 members this week, and we're gonna come up with some great incentives. This Friday night, I'll be playing a game with Hilly. My wife won't be able to be there, but trust me, you guys want to hit this goal. We always have fun with Hilly. They're probably showing off more Pokemon. Oh, is there a Pokemon game coming this year? I forgot that there was one. I don't know if I was aware there was one at all. Which one's coming this year? It's hard to keep them all straight. I feel like every time I turn around, there's a Pokemon game. The next Switch is 2025. No way would they show it this early and kill sales of the Switch even more. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I'm just surprised that they literally tweeted it and said that. Yeah. You're not being good isn't a reason to decry game design. It just doesn't jive with you. Yeah, this guy's saying on a personal note, well, I mean, I don't know this guy or gal. I didn't actually look. Austin, okay? Austin is saying, on a personal note, I was relieved to see very few of the absurdly delayed dodge baiting attack animations that have infected so many modern action RPGs. And a 10 bomb comes in from Detective Seeds. Where's my pop out? Oh, I'm in the wrong scene. There's the pop out. Let me do it again. I'm going to do it again for Detective Seeds. Thank you so much, Detective Seeds, for doing a 10 bomb. Appreciate you so much. Good to see your vids have been crushing lately. And a 5 bomb comes in from JW. All of a sudden, we're on a bit of a member tear and a member train. You guys want to see Hilly go through some pain. Oh, supposedly coming late 2024 is Pokemon Legends. Okay. I was going to say, I don't think I've heard about a Pokemon game this year. Thank you again, Detective Seeds and JW, for kickstarting that, getting us really close to the first 25. Every 25 I give 5, and I gave you guys the 50 that I owed last Friday. You guys absolutely crushed it last week. It got insane. It got absolutely insane. So, again, I don't mind somebody having... Let me put the fade on instead of the stinger. We don't need the big animation every time I switch scenes. I don't mind somebody expressing that they don't like these, right? You know, to bait, you're just baiting my dodge, and you're messing with me, right? Like I said, I personally like them because once you master them, it's really satisfying. You're like, you're not tricking me, dude. Like you end up feeling pretty good about it. At least that's how I feel. You're welcome. Hope you had a solid Father's Day. Yo, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. It was a great Father's Day. It was awesome. I went and hung out with all the families that we're really close to, and just, it was just good. It was just good to be around people and watch the kids play in the backyard, and it was a good night. Infinite with 24 months in the VIP. Thank you for the years of entertainment. Can't imagine my mornings without your content. Cheers to many more. Who needs coffee at 5? It's 5 p.m. somewhere. Thank you, Infinite. Sadiq was saying, I don't like that either. It's annoying. I get why people don't like it. I don't mind it. So I don't think he's saying this in a critical way. I think he's just saying on a personal note, he's glad this game's not doing that, Wukong quickly becomes an impressively agile character, and from the lock-on camera to dodge animations to enemy stagger, the game nails it in the combat. If it was a Souls-like, it would probably be the best one since Liza P, the best Souls-like ever made for my money, based on this demo. Wait, did he argue that about Liza P? I played a billion... Okay, so this is the same guy. I've played a billion Souls-likes, and Liza P is officially the best one. Now I want From Software to steal from it. Okay, so here's somebody that didn't give Liza P a snub. I argued that in my video today. I was like, man, Black Myth Wukong could get the Souls-like snub. Okay, this isn't like a review. It's an opinion piece. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if he was doing like a review where we were going to get a score. Game of the Year potential because it's accessible. Right, Lobo? Like, the gaming press is going to love the fact that, like, Black Myth Wukong isn't some brutal, frustrating Souls-like. I think they're actually going to end up liking it for that reason. I do. I think they're gonna say, hey, listen, this game was fun. This game was a pleasant surprise. This game was not what we expected. Because I think a lot of people are probably going to go into it expecting a Souls-like, and when it's not, and they're able to like really, this guy's saying he beat some of the bosses in like 5 attempts. I think most people will like that. I do. I think people want to feel like they overcame something difficult, but most people don't want to feel like they overcame insurmountable odds or impossible odds. I think the popularity of Souls games are going to continue to grow. Elden Ring obviously has its DLC around the corner, and it's kind of having a moment right now when you have some of the world's biggest streamers playing it and showing people that, hey, you can push through and beat this just like we did. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if, like, Elden Ring had a bump in sales because of Kai and all these other guys playing the game. But I do think your average gamer likes the idea of being pressed just enough to where they're like, okay, it took me a couple of tries, but I beat that boss, instead of feeling like it took me a week to beat that boss. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I probably think that there'll be people that like this that typically haven't liked Souls games before. They're going to say, hey, I was able to have a good time with Black Myth Wukong, and I didn't feel like, it was some Souls game taking me to the cleaners. Why is Wukong looks like a monkey? Did somebody ask that, Derek, or are you just being silly? Yeah. Doc and Nikki Merckx. Well, Doc already played. Doc may just be going back because it's hot right now. So, but what's he say here? Oh no, yeah, we left the article for this part. I want to see what he said about Liza P. From what I saw, there are 3 skill trees: one for spells, which was unavailable in the demo, one for generalist benefits, and one for 3 staff fighting styles. I leaned more on the passive bonuses, but I did dabble in staff actions a bit. One upgrade improved the range of my opening light attack, and another gave me a combo breaker heavy attack that spends an energy point accumulated primarily by dealing damage and perfect dodging attacks. If you have energy, you can also use it to instantly build up a charge attack, which creates an interesting dynamic for how to spend the resource. I preferred using charge attacks when I didn't have energy in the bank, but there are strategies for both. Oh, okay, so you build up energy by dealing damage and perfect dodging attacks. If you have energy, you can instantly build up the charge attack. So you can do the charge attack. I wonder, that would be, yeah, that would be interesting if they basically set that up to where if you're doing enough damage, you can then use the charge attack as almost like part of your, like almost like a combo, but then have it instantly if you have enough of the energy. I'd play this if it was a bunny and not a monkey. I think he looks great. I think he looks awesome. With a few upgrades, I automatically unlocked a second energy slot, and with it, a higher tier of charged attack. I could then acquire a follow-up attack to the aforementioned combo breaker, which hits much harder but requires 2 points of energy to pull off. Another upgrade that basically eliminates incoming damage during the initial animation made this much easier to land during boss fights, and the heavy combo became my go-to way to spend energy. Open with a charge attack, sneak in light combos, and spend my energy on combo breakers. Energy attacks heal you a little bit too, which is nice. Yeah, Eugene, I don't know if you're here and maybe you went lurk, or I don't know if he's been saying anything. This does not sound like a button masher to me. It does not sound like a button masher. It definitely sounds like there's a lot of thought into how you manage your various abilities, skill trees, combo breakers, your energy. Yeah. Read Journey to the West. Yeah, that's what this is inspired by. If you're trying to figure out, like, why am I running around as a dude like a monkey man? Kind of like Stellar Blade, beta energy when you perfect dodge. Yes. Yeah, kind of like Stellar Blade. I've focused on the default fighting style so far, but there are 2 others you can swap to at any time using the D-pad, not unlike Ghost of Tsushima. One was hidden in the demo and only unlocked at level 20 anyhow, but I did get the chance to sample the other one, which swaps your charge attacks to a pillar stance. Wukong now uses his staff like a totem pole, sitting calmly at the top while enemies bash the bottom and chip away at your stamina. This stance completely dodges most melee attacks, and you only ascend higher as your staff builds up energy and extends. You can use that stored energy to land heavy slams with much greater reach. I'm told you can further modify the staff through equipable items, which I never found crafted or otherwise saw. Your playstyle gains additional layers through armor pieces with stat bonuses, as well as more interesting set bonuses, all color-coded like most loot games, as rare and epics and so on. I found a circlet that let me chug healing gourds while sprinting, and this came in clutch for several fights. It sounds like they've been really thoughtful about, you can really carve out your own playstyle, right? Like that sounds like, oh, when would I use that? But I actually think in a game like this with a real high-speed action, being able to heal while you're running, That's actually really helpful. Like, how many times have you gone to heal in a Souls game, and because you have to, like, stop and, like, do a little thing, you get slammed or you get pelted, and it basically completely undoes the healing. Just something little like that gives you this touch of intentional, you know, structuring of your build and your character, I think is nice. I think it does. It seems like they've been very thoughtful about having their own style and not just instead of just doing what everybody else does. You know what I mean? Like, you could just do what everybody else does and build a combat system that is largely built on the foundations of all these other games. And I think it's probably a good idea to not do that. If you're going to try to stand out and be a game that people remember, it's probably good to have your own way of doing things like healing or skill trees and things like that. You're playing as the mythical character the game is based on. Wait, are people upset about the fact that they have to play as a monkey? What? Or the character is Sun Wukong, a Chinese god. You weren't meant to play as someone else. Wait, are people being silly, or are they saying that they would prefer to play as somebody as a different character? Oh, I was joking about Star Wars dialogue, Star Wars Alice. What's funny is IGN still have millions of subscribers. What's going on with IGN? What did IGN say? Did IGN give this? I mean, I've got their review pulled up here. Did somebody quote IGN in chat or something? Why are you guys talking about? IGN gives Madden high scores. I don't trust their reviews. They gave Doom 2016 a 7. Yeah, I think the hardest thing about these outlets now is they have like 5 different people writing reviews. So like one guy will write a review and give something a 4, and then the next guy writes a review and gives something a 7, and they're completely different people with completely different views. Oh, Bumblepan says, I was trying to make a joke and the people made about playing as K-Vess. Oh, yeah. Bumblepants is being facetious when he says, I just wish there was a character creator. Why would they make me play as the monkey guy? Yeah, he's trolling about Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah. He's just messing. Yeah, like, I don't think the joke didn't land. Right, you need a kappa. You have to use a kappa, and we would have immediately understood, like, oh, you're poking fun at the people that say that about all these games where you have to play as a girl. Yeah. This game's gonna bang. Let's read this next part here. It says, for me, the magic moment was the reveal of the actual magic system. The first spell you get just minutes into the game, or at least into the demo, is called Immobilize. It freezes enemies, including bosses, in place for a few seconds, and it's every bit as powerful as it sounds. Freeze them, walk behind them so they whiff when they unfreeze, and get in some free hits. One Immobilize is usually enough time to delete any normal enemy or get a full combo in on a boss. This feels like cheating, and you get to do it all the time. It has a long cooldown, 50 seconds I believe, a short duration, and limited use cases. You can't freeze a boss during most attack combos, for example, but we're talking about the ability to freeze time here. This is the first spell in the game, and it doesn't even cost much mana. IGN claimed the Wolong. Well, I think he meant to say Wukong. Oh, that's right. They basically had like a hit piece ready to go as soon as the trailer hit and like everybody was talking about it. Yeah, IGN had a hit piece ready to go saying that they've been accused of things like workplace conditions or something. Yeah. I think the stuff about Sweet Baby Inc. was made up though. The guy that said that wasn't a real wasn't a real employee or whatever. Hit pieces. I mean, Eugene, I can find the tweet, but like as soon as everybody was talking about Black Myth Wukong, they came out with some claim about allegations. It was like they had it ready to go. It 100% was a hit piece. It was like sitting on the cost of Summer Game Fest advertisements and then dropping it like the day before the event. That's a freaking hit piece. You didn't go and like do investigative journalism and then report on something. Like you sat on something negative so you could slam a game as soon as it's getting traction or goes viral, everybody's talking about it. Like I don't know else what to call that. Let me see if I can find the tweet. It didn't seem genuine at all. Open image in a new tab. They got community noted, by the way, for the tweet. So before you start, before you start, coming to their defense, I'd maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Let me give you the tweet here. That stuff was reported last year. Yeah, but didn't they just recently put this out? Or is that an old tweet? I thought it was a new tweet. I thought it was like a new thing. Because all of a sudden I saw it and it was like circulating. Was it circulating because people were railing against IGN? Or was it circulating because it was a new tweet? Oh, no. They tweeted that in November of 2023. You're right. It is old. But they got community noted. Okay. So I was wrong. I thought they dropped it like as soon as the game was going and getting attention again. I thought, oh yeah, here we go. But classic IGN getting community noted. Indie Soul's Black Myth Wukong has seen widespread acclaim since its reveal, but the studio behind it, GameScience, has long been plagued with accusations of sexism that reflect wider issues in the Chinese games industry. They got noted. The sexist quotes shown in the article are poorly translated. Accurate translations show the statements being vulgar, but definitely not sexist. IGN reporting on these fallacious, unverified claims as their fact is yellow journalism, which CNs were made to combat. So, yeah, it's not investigative journalism. It's a freaking hit piece. I was wrong about the timing, but that's a hit piece. You're just taking unverified claims and writing an article, right? And then posting it as if it's true. So they can take their community note and keep making less money on their Twitter Blue. IGN keeps referencing the articles they write about the game. Devs refuse to acknowledge or address the allegations in our previous reporting. Yo, 8-Bit Pro, thank you so much for gifting a member and taking us to 17 members on the day. CNs are being weaponized. Community notes can be a sham too. FIGN, though. I mean, if they're going to keep bringing it up and saying that they're not answering the allegations, that's not the dev's job, by the way. They did say this. One last note. I didn't see any women or femme-coded characters in the demo, and I was able to confirm from GameScience that there were none present in the section of the game presented to the press. There will be women in the final game, but for now, it is impossible to really comment on whether or not GameScience developers' expressed beliefs permeate Black Myth Wukong in a meaningful way. I don't understand. Why would that matter? I genuinely don't understand why that would matter. Like, if someone decides they don't want, they're going to have you fighting animals the whole time, why would you need a woman in that game? You're fighting bears and wolves and weird creatures with giant heads, and I think I saw a spider in one of the trailers. Like, it's just going to get a little ridiculous if we get to that point where it's like we're going to judge a game based on the number of women in the game when that has nothing to, if it has nothing to do with the game, right? It's like you're fighting what look like mythical beasts and giant monsters. So adding or taking away points for that is kind of dumb. Why does Lord of the Rings have Shalab, but Black Myth Wukong can't have a female spider? Yeah, exactly. How do you know some of the creatures you were looking at weren't female? You know what I'm saying? Did you happen to ask any of the animals what they are? Did you interview the spider? That's so dumb. That's absolutely stupid. Oh my gosh. Go read the book, says Lobo. Like no one I know talks about this. No. Man, why is like half the messages are needing approved? Like, what is going on? For context, IGN accused Stellar Blade for having a female protagonist being too hot, now accusing Wukong don't have femme-coded characters. Well, it was IGN France that took issues with Stellar Blade, and didn't they have to, like, issue an apology because the Stellar Blade character was based off of a real person? I could even tell the gender. Yeah, exactly. More on spells here from this preview from GamesRadar. There are 4 slots for spells, and I'm told multiple spells will eventually compete for each spot. It's hard to imagine ever dropping Immobilize, but I'm more flexible when it comes to transformation spells. After beating one early boss, a fire glaive-wielding wolfman named Guangzi, I unlocked a spell with a very long cooldown that let me assume his form for a limited time. This essentially gives you a second health bar because your transformation has its own health pool, and dying just pops you back to monkey form. As Guangzi, you can slice enemies with fast combos that feel weaker than your staff, but also apply a potent burn damage. That's pretty cool. I like that. I do. I think that's a nice touch, letting you do that for a limited time. Absorbing damage for free while dealing meaningful damage yourself gives transformation spells powerful utility. Against some bosses, I'd open with Immobilize, immediately transform, set them ablaze while they were still frozen, and usually have Immobilize back off cooldown by the time my transformation was done. Guangzi's form Guangzi's form felt clunkier than the destined one, especially when it comes to dodging, but it's a powerful spell. I can't wait to see what and who else you can turn into, and to figure out which form I want to bring for a fight. Other loadout decisions include which bonus to add to your healing gourd, like curing poison or extra healing. Black Myth Wukong is the latest promising action epic to come from China, which has long been dominated by mobile games, but is increasingly finding global success and attention on console and PC. It's the most wish-listed game on Steam, and one of the most hyped games of the year. After playing it for 2 hours, I'd say its reputation is largely deserved. This is good stuff, maybe even great. Much remains to be seen in the full game, but at the first bite, this demo was delicious. Easily one of the best things at Summer Game Fest. So, I guess the question is, can this game get Game of the Year? Right? I mean, to me, that's the question of the hour. Is, can this game, do you guys think this game can get Game of the Year? I think it could. I think it could at least get nominated. I wonder how many total transformations Wukong will have. He has a lot in the book. Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like if you kill something, you can transform into them, but I think that might get a little ridiculous. Aren't there like 80 bosses in the game? No performance issues. That, I think, is my biggest worry and concern. Like, all of the previews, I went and looked. The previews for the Lords of the Fallen were all very positive, and everybody thought Lords of the Fallen looked really, really pretty. And then it came out, and it had a ton of reviews that basically were not that great, and it had a lot of performance problems. It'll win, but Astro's going to steal the show. Well, I don't know what's going to win at this point. It has to beat out Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yeah, a lot of people think that Rebirth is the front runner right now. They feel that Rebirth's the front runner for Game of the Year. It's going to be hard going against Helldivers, Concord, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Astrobot. I don't think Concord has even a prayer of getting a Game of the Year nomination. I've not seen anything from Concord that would get it up on the podium for Game of the Year. As far as Game of the Year goes, I would think that something like this definitely has a shot because it's got that charm. It's going to feel unique. I don't know if it would win, Paul. I think this could get a nomination. I definitely think winning is going to be a challenge. I think winning would be harder than just... I mean, I think this year is tough too, because like we don't really even have, outside of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so I don't really feel like we have a front runner. Somebody might say Dragon's Dogma 2, but I don't know how that landed with the general critic total. I don't remember. I remember when it came out, the talk of the at least of this community was the performance issues. Dragon's Dogma is currently sitting at an 86 on Metacritic, but has a 6.3 from the users. I just don't know if Dragon's Dogma 2, 87 on OpenCritic. Dragon's Dogma 2 is definitely in the hemisphere of getting a Game of the Year nomination, but it's also one of those ones that could get bummed. If Wukong lands really, really favorable with a bunch of the outlets, that's a game that could get bumped. Dragon's Dogma, you got to remember the jury process and the way the gaming press operates. Is the gaming press going to put Dragon's Dogma 2 up there when it has an 86, 87? Like, are there enough people that think that deserves Game of the Year nomination? Like, Dragon's Dogma 2 could get a handful of nominations in other categories, but when it comes to the jury process for Game of the Year, you've got to be way up there with everything else. Because if not, you just don't have enough outlets that pick you during the jury process. Between Black Myth and Stellar Blade both getting nominated are big wins for both studios, even if they don't. Yeah, I don't know if they're both going to get a nom. I think that Stellar Blade will get a nom for something, but I don't think Stellar Blade gets a nom for Game of the Year. This is from 2021. Like, I don't care, but they've had issues since 2015. Like when they got developer 6. Okay, do we have something that's not reset era though? What? So it's an article from. They faced boycott after CEO made remarks. Okay, and this is back in 2021. I feel like some gaming journalists will possibly bring the reviews down on Black Myth. Many may just wait for YouTubers to see how the game plays and their honest reviews. Well, this is Pure Xbox's video right here. And Pure Xbox basically said that they didn't want to ask about like the Series S thing. So I don't know if the gaming press goes to capture events like this. And like, I just think it's generally bad form to suddenly turn it into like a Diane Sawyer, like, oh, we're going to do a hard pressing, hard questions interview. It's like, you're there to capture gameplay, right? If they grant you an interview later for an article or something, and you think that that's a question that needs to be asked and the public needs to know about, then I think that's fine. But at a capture event, I understand a press outlet being like, we're not going to get into this. Like, their name is Pure Xbox, and they did not ask about the issue with the Xbox versions coming later. They just didn't think that was the right call. So I wouldn't expect them to ask about the history of problems from 3 years ago or 9 years ago. A lot of the times I think the devs just want to bring a game to market, and they want to put that, they typically, unless it's still ongoing, obviously that's the concern. If the problems of the company are no longer ongoing, I don't think people want to focus on that. It's like, can we just move on? That would be my thought. If the company is in a better place, the devs just want to bring something to market and move beyond whatever in the world happened in the past. Stalker 2 looks terrible. Bland, boring, unoriginal. I think that Stalker 2 looks great, and then we heard that the gameplay was terrible. Like, Luke Stevens put out a video, and he was like, it was bad. It was basically like screen-tearing City, and it just performed terribly. And a guy walked behind him and said, woof. It was like, woof. It like looked that bad. Rich Rod, I was asking where you were Friday, Thursday. What are you guys talking about? Rich Rod, what did you say? You told somebody not to be a hater? Oh, he was joking with Zubair. Okay. Okay, so that's the end of their footage from Pure Xbox. Is there anybody that didn't like it? Have you guys found any reviews that were negative? Or, I'm sorry, previews that were negative? Like, IGN says, impressive first 2 hours. A classic tale retold. Game Informer. Push Square says, finally can be the game journey to the West deserves. And then the Gamer says it was excruciating, so they might have. It looks like they had a hard time with it. Yo, it's good, John. I didn't trust Luke Stevens because he complained about actual mechanics in Stalker. Wait, I don't understand that sentence. You didn't trust him because he complained about actual mechanics? Why would that make you not trust him? Wouldn't that make you trust him more? He wasn't the only one. We heard before his video hit the airwaves, we were hearing whispers that Stalker did not demo very well at the event. That it was having issues. It was having performance issues. That was out there in the ether before he even uploaded his video. Like, unless he had passing remarks or tweeted or something, and he was the source of that. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would go to an event and just, like, trash a game needlessly. What he was talking about sounded bad. It sounded like it was a game that's just not ready. Or at least their vertical slice wasn't ready. Okay, so the Gamer said they had an excruciating time. Let's see what they have to say here. They said, I'm not a big Souls player, but I did have a great time trying out Black Myth Wukong. The 2-hour demo I played took me through half a dozen boss encounters while introducing a variety of characters and all the core progression and combat systems. Fans of the genre will find plenty of familiar ideas, campfires to allow you to refill your health pots, purchase items and craft upgrades, while also giving you a respawn point to come back to if you die, but it's where Wukong breaks the genre's traditions that make it stand out. So this is not a big Souls player. So you guys out there that aren't big Souls players, this is for you. This is the review, or I'm sorry, the preview for you. I'm saying that maybe some game journalists that may give Black Myth Wukong a bad review, I think we have to wait on full gameplay. Did Kirk call Donnie ugly? I can't figure out what's going on. Why would he call Donnie ugly? What? He says, Donnie, all I'll say is there's a reason you don't usually show your face anywhere. What the frick does that mean? Combat has a very different flow from what you might be used to in the genre. Activating your light attack unleashes a flurry of quick acrobatic hits that combo together several times before ending with a heavy finisher. The heavy attack, the default long range, needs to be charged up before it can be used, either by holding the heavy attack button for a few seconds or landing consecutive light attacks until you store a charge that you can unleash later on. The stamina gauge limits how much you can attack and dodge, though, so you can't just spam light attacks over and over. Even against weak enemies, fights require a lot of patience. It's all about building up your power and waiting for the right moment to unleash a string of devastating attacks on your opponent. So it sounds like they're saying similar things that we heard in the other reviews here. That the combat is more thoughtful. I usually disagree with Luke Stevens in many things, so I stopped seeing his videos or caring for his opinion. I mean, that's fine. You're not going to agree with everybody. I found his remarks about Stalker 2 really concerning because that game actually has a release date, and we know they were dealing with a lot of trouble. So I don't know. I thought Donnie was a decent-looking guy on the podcast. That would be really uncharacteristic of Kirk to insult someone's looks. I don't know if he was joking or what. That doesn't seem like what he was saying. Wukong's combat is all about resource management. On top of your health, stamina, and charge meter, you also have a magic resource used for spells. The first one I learned was a time stop that could freeze enemies in place. The spell itself was a cooldown after use, but you could use it to spend some mana every time you use it, which could be refilled by visiting a campsite. I've not seen that yet. I may have to stand corrected. You've not seen what? After defeating an optional boss called Guangzai, Wolf had a powerful moveset. Okay, so yeah, he's talking about how you could shapeshift. There's no block or parry, which might be the thing that separates it the most from the rest of the Souls-like genre. You have a staff to spin that allows you to deflect range attacks, but when you're facing off against an enemy, dodging is your main method of avoiding damage. And see, here's these sites where I turn off my ad blocker for you guys because I think that that's a fair thing to do when I'm going to use your articles, but your freaking websites have become unusable. They've become unusable. This is now the second outlet that does this. I don't know what you're doing with your formatting, but even if I go full screen, I can't read your dadgum article. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, I try not to be that guy. I literally disable ad blocker on websites like this because I know that's how you make your money. It's partly how I make my money. But it's like, you guys are making your freaking websites unusable. You know what I mean? And if I turn it back on, I feel bad, but it's like, I'm just trying to read what you wrote. Like, as a filthy casual, I can confirm that Black Myth is not going to be a beginner-friendly entry point to the genre, but it's also an easy way to see this is the real deal, something that transcends the label of Dark Souls clone and stands out on its own as its own competent, well-designed action RPG. So he's saying it's not going to be a beginner-friendly entry. So, you know, so he's casual. So take that from your perspective. Like, this game still might not be for you. If like you're really casual and you want to walk in the park, it sounds like this game's probably still not going to be for you. How does this game compare to Sekiro? It's not remotely the same because Sekiro's entire combat system is built around parrying and posture. This feels like it's more built around maintaining resources. So like, you're trying to keep your charge up. You've got spells, and then you have a shape-shifting thing you can do periodically as well. And you're trying to string those things together in a way that keeps you on top of the combat. On top of the enemy, like winning, basically. Black Myth Wukong launches on August 19th. I expect it won't take long before the hardcore nerds start cooking up impossible challenges. It's too bad the banana thing's already been done, but I'm sure someone will find a way to make this brutally difficult game somehow more masochistic. Maybe not as masochistic as letting the developers watch you struggle for 2 hours straight, but still pretty hard. So it feels like if you're pretty casual and you generally stay away from games like this, it seems like Black Myth is probably going to be in a similar vein of like, you're probably not going to have a good time. It definitely doesn't feel like I don't think anybody's going to describe it as an easy game. It'll probably end up being described as a more approachable game. Forgive my ignorance, I don't play these games. None of them have path tracing. Yeah, so in Sekiro, you're trying to whittle down the posture bar of the enemy as well as their health bar. Some enemies, their posture breaks faster when they've lost health. Some enemies, you want to just purely focus on their posture bar. And then once that breaks, you can do devastating damage to them. So it's a bit of a... you're almost having to like test out the individual enemies or bosses in Sekiro. In this game, that doesn't seem to be even part of it, part of the combat at all. You see how he like squints his eyes now a little and he brushes his hair like Lono and all now? Huh? What are you talking about? This is an action game creatively without rigid adherence to any one mechanic. Yeah. And I said it in my video. I'll see if I have any more comments. I'm curious if anybody's going to bring up the Xbox Series S. Because I did my best to, like, mention it, but I didn't want to make it, like, the focal point of the video. Because the pure Xbox, them being as gracious and as high praise as they were, I thought that carried more weight. Because I thought it could have been very easy for them to be like overly critical and like basically take up for Xbox because the game isn't coming to Xbox at launch. But I just don't think anybody is especially the review outlets now. I just don't think they could be bothered to not see what's really going on there. Like, are you honestly going to hold the devs? You know, are we going to do the cliche thing that Twitter does and just say blame the devs? I just don't think anybody with any shred of integrity is going to do that anymore. It's just obvious what's going on. And I argued in the video, I think the fact that they're not shipping it on Xbox gives me confidence that this game is ready. Because I'm always worried when it's an Unreal 5 game. It's like we've not had the greatest of luck with Unreal 5 games. But if your game wasn't ready, they would just ship it on Xbox and be like, yeah, it's not ready. Let's just get this game out. So the fact that they're waiting, to me, tells me they're worried about optimization and performance. It does. And the Digital Foundry guys were talking about it, and they were worried about it maintaining 60 on console. So it's like, well, we'll see. Because they were talking about this, and they're like, well, more than likely the Series X version is ready. You know, it's going to be the same as the PS5 version. They said, but this is, they thought the same thing that the rest of us thought, that like this is clearly a Series S issue. This game makes me want a God of War trilogy reboot, to be honest. If it's great, I may deal with the excuse me, I may deal with the challenging, but brutal is definitely out, just not my bag. Don't forget Pow World. What about, I don't understand. What about Pow World? Why are you bringing up that? Armored Core 6 was pretty ridiculous. Don't think Wukong will be that because of all the combat options, multiple ways to approach fights. Right. It's obvious that the Series S is clearly far too powerful and they can't take advantage of its raw power. Yeah, like the Series S is, you know, standing on the platform. You underestimate my power. And some people play a game like this at 30. Is that even viable? Yeah, no. They argued, and I'm going to talk about this game with Kirk in about 45 minutes. Fable, they argue in their recent video they think Fable's going to be another 30 FPS game. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Good luck with that. Good luck with releasing another game in 2025. Not even in the early parts of the gen now. You're going to release a game in 2025 at 30. I was like, oh my word. And this is where I don't agree with John Linneman. Like, I like a lot of his input and a lot of his takes, but I do not agree with him. He thinks that 30 FPS is acceptable in the right type of game. And I'm like, I don't understand that at all. I don't. He thought it was fine in Final Fantasy 16. And I was like, I couldn't disagree more. I'm always interested in, does the intellectual part of his brain help him tolerate it? He understands maybe what's going on or something more. So he's like, I get it. Engine level this or FSR that. Like, is he intellectually at a point where he's like, I get why they did this and that makes it okay? Or is it a genuine preference of just like, it doesn't bother him? I just don't know. People play Bloodborne. I could play it at 30. I don't think what we've seen from Black Myth Wukong would be enjoyable at 30 frames per second. I think it would be absolutely horrendous. I do. If Black Myth Wukong is a 30 FPS game on console, it will do terribly. It won't sell well. People will be like, what are you doing? It won't feel good. The movement, the attacks, and the iframes and the dodging, everything we saw, it's like, this is a fast game. You can't play a game like that at 30. It'll feel sluggish and blurry. It won't feel good. And you can't have a game that centers itself around fast moment-to-moment combat. You can't have that center around 30 FPS. He likes motion blur, end of story. I don't necessarily think that's fair to John Linneman. I don't think he likes motion blur. I think he says it's okay in certain instances. Like, he thought it was fine in Final Fantasy 16. I don't think he's like on team motion blur, though. I don't want to misrepresent him. I think he thinks it's okay in the right circumstances. Dragon's Dogma sold 3 million and counting. Yeah, I just think Dragon's Dogma is in a different category. Like, I think people tolerated it. People didn't notice it. That was fine. I don't think you can play a game like Black Myth at 30 and not have people take an issue with it. It's not that kind of a game. It's linear. It's like a linear set piece game, too. You're not in some big open world. You know, I know it's graphically demanding. I do. I see the trailers. I see the gameplay. I know it's a graphically demanding game, but I don't think that... I don't see I don't see people tolerating that. I think more and more people want the higher frame rates. I'll bet it's 60 on the PS5. This is a day one for me. Bloodborne is old and great people accept it being 30. If it launched today, people would be ticked. That's my thought, is just because you can point to a classic that's 30. You know, I had a guy leave a comment this morning on one of my videos. I'm not sure which one. He was like, I grew up playing games at 30. And I'm like, yeah, and I grew up with a square television. It was a tube TV. That doesn't mean I want to continue to engage and watch things at that quality. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? With the old CPU and GPU bottleneck graphics, but new CPU and graphics cards are coming. I'm not sure what you're saying. My hot take is that 24 FPS stuff is for cinema production snobs and stop motion artists. Purposely doing it does not make it good from a consumer. The customer's always right in matters of taste. Why is Kojima hanging out with Peter Jackson? What are they doing? Agreed, 30 was the standard for a long time, but not anymore. It's not fine when a game launches at 30 and then gets 60 update after launch. When it's done and ready, you can play what you want. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that if you can get it, then save it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can get to 60, then save it. Like, don't release your game until that's ready. I don't know. How many games are going to do that, right? It happened with Redfall. It happened with Starfield. It happened with Plague Tale Requiem. Wasn't there something else recently that wasn't 60 and got 60 later? I forget what it was. I'm in the middle. I want advancement, but I don't want to. But I won't turn my nose up to 30 FPS anymore. Loved Liza P. and loving Dragon's Dogma 2. Wait, I'm confused. Liza P. is not 30 FPS. I'm not. I'm in the middle. I want advancement, but I won't turn my nose up at 30 FPS anymore. I'm not sure why you included Liza P. Can't wait for easy mode. I'll really enjoy that. I don't think there's going to be an easy mode in Black Myth Wukong. I don't think that's it. I don't think they've said anything about that. Everybody that talked about how difficult it was have said that it's going to be a tough game. The one guy even said this isn't going to be a good entry point for like new. If you're new to the genre, he's like, this is probably going to be a game to skip, is what he said. I sometimes watch collections of NFL highlights that cover multiple eras. The contrast between modern highlights and highlights from 1985 is shocking. We used to be fine with crap. Well, we didn't know. You know, we didn't know. All we knew is that was what it looked like. Oh, you played Liza P at 30 with the fidelity mode. Trouble says, of course there will be, since it's not a Souls-like. I think you're being real presumptive, man. You're going to set yourself up for disappointment. Don't you think they would have made that the center point of the preview? Right? Will Black Myth Wukong have an easy mode? Any news about difficulty level? No. No one has any news about having a difficulty mode. It not being a Souls-like doesn't mean it'll have an easy mode. I'd be real careful. You may be right, Treble. They may have difficulty settings, but I wouldn't go into it assuming that, because all these people just went to a 2-hour preview, and one of the center stages of feedback from Black Myth Wukong gameplay is, it's tough, but it's manageable. Nobody came back and said, oh yeah, and the dev said if it gets too hard, you can turn the difficulty down. I feel like that would be you would want that information out there in the previews to let people know, yep, it's tough. It's a tough game. It took me 5 tries to beat a boss or what have you, but don't worry, you can turn the difficulty down. Maybe they don't want to focus on that right now, but that feels like something that you would say very early on in your marketing, especially now that you're letting people touch the game and it's like 2 months away. Seriously, I'm not buying that. Can't be dealing with just standard hard mode. It doesn't seem like it's a hard mode, though. The way they talked about it, Treble, is that it's an action RPG and that it's very approachable. No one said they played it on easy or hard or anything like that. Yeah, they just said they played it, and the one guy said, he was able to take down some bosses first try, but a couple of the more challenging bosses, it took him like 5. And the one guy said he's not a Souls player, and he had fun with it. So I don't know. Is having a difficulty setting good or a bad thing? I don't care either way. I'm just warning about presuming that it'll have one. I'm like, be careful. Don't presume that. You're going to set yourself up for disappointment, right? It's all about what Zubair's going where I was going to go. It's all about the intention of the author. Like, what are they going for? What are they wanting? Are they wanting a game that is like, this is it, there's no difficulty? Or are they wanting their game to have, easy, normal, hard, and then once you beat it on hard, there's insanity, right? It's all down to what the developers want. That's why I've always said, when it comes to FromSoft games, I'm like, they don't owe you anything. If you can't beat their game on the terms that they've built, then that's how it is. That's the game they want to build. Now, on the flip side, though, I told all the FromSoft boys who were like really big FromSoft fans, I said, listen, if FromSoft decides that a boss is too difficult, like Baltius in Armored Core, I was like, if you're going to defend their intentions and the fact that they don't want to have an easy mode, then you've got to respect their intentions when they determine that maybe the fail rate of a boss is too high. I don't have time for the get good sweaty games, just my opinion, hoping it does since Stellar Blade and Rise of Ronin did. Yeah, I mean, Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin certainly had their challenging moments. They did, and they certainly had moments where it's like, if you just couldn't get past it, obviously there were, there was people that probably switched it, or did just played the whole thing on easy mode. I don't know. The nerfing Radon was lame. They didn't really nerf Radon though. They fixed hitboxes that were crazy. I think maybe they went a little bit too far, but I don't know if I would consider that a nerf. I don't know if that was a nerf. It was like his hitboxes weren't working properly. Unless they did something else to him that I'm unaware of. At the time, I remember being like, oh, they tweaked his hitboxes because there was issues with how big they were. And I think people took issue with it because it went from being absolutely brutal to being a lot more approachable, and then they felt like the fight was ruined. And I was like, I don't know about that. Couple more comments here on the video. The PlayStation console exclusive is going to be amazing. I'm hyped for this game. It seems like a lot of people are excited about Black Myth Wukong. First challenge they face is IGN slandering them. Stellar Blade is getting a 7 out of 10 from IGN is pure murder. It's 100% a political move from IGN because the BSDIX, that was IGN France that took issue with the character, not the main IGN site. The main IGN site didn't seem to care about that. This guy says, I'm buying the game no matter what. Same. It felt like a nerf because he was way too easy after. The arrow shots. He doesn't hit anywhere as hard. He had one hit KO move in his final phase, the arrow shots. Oh, did they nerf those too? I felt like those were I thought those were supposed to punish you for getting too far away or whatever. I can't remember. They were like floaty purple orbs, weren't they? I remember those being really frustrating. And then someone was like, well, if you stay close to him, he doesn't do them. Guys, take a quick second. I've been streaming for about an hour and a half. In about 30 minutes, I'm going to be talking about Fable with Kirk. I'm going to break down the history of that game with you guys. I am not at all. Digital Foundry was impressed with what they saw. I've not been. I think the new trailer looks great. And it looks better than the last one, but I'm like, where's the gameplay? What are you guys doing? Like, I don't get why you would be stingy with gameplay. So Kirk doesn't agree with me, so we're gonna be talking about that game. I'm asking the question, what's wrong? Like, what's going on with this game? What are y'all doing? So take a quick second and double check your likes. Make sure you pressed it. It helps more people find the video. And we've got 17 out of 25. We're going for 500 members this week. And last week you guys went so insane that I was dropping 50 bombs because you guys were going so insane. Wukong is their first AAA game. Don't compare them to the Coalition. No mention I didn't compare them to the Coalition. LOL. Try listening. The other story was debunked. The Sweet Baby thing got debunked. The guy that claimed it wasn't even he claimed to be a staff member and he wasn't. Like, I think at this point nobody knows how to talk about games without that having to be forced into it. Like, I don't think people, I really do. I think people are losing the ability. They just make things up. They're like, well, this game looks like it's going to be good and fun, and we have to somehow attach this to it. And so they just make something up. Nobody, that story was completely debunked within like 24 hours. It's like, that guy doesn't even work for the company. Did anything actually substantive come out about that? Veridark said it in a vid that Wukong turned down SBI 7 million. Yeah, I know. That's another YouTuber that is constantly banging on the drum about, like, everything is woke, right? If that's the kind of content you want to make, that's fine. Like, everybody slaps big white and red letters on their thumbnails and everything is now woke, I guess. That story isn't true. It isn't true. Like, it was debunked within, like, the day that it came out. I don't understand. Like, if we're actually upset about, like, how bad the gaming press is, how bad gaming coverage has been, I think one of the things that's worse are the people that are claiming to be righteous warriors for truth, and yet they're not interested in it either. You're not interested in truth. You're just rage farming clicks with stuff that isn't true. Are you going to talk about the fact that there's a Mandela effect on Fable? There was no actual character creator and the changes were based on actions and very slight changes you could do? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm tired of hearing about this crap every time a game comes out. Right, like, nobody knows how to talk about games anymore. They're like, instead of breaking down the systems or what looks fun or is it good or not, they're just like, oh, there's a woman in the game, or, oh, there's this in the game. So it's like, well, that's the only thing you can talk about now. This person put out a vid, so you might be right. No one's saying that about Fable. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying about Fable, Skeeter, with the Mandela effect. But there was no validity to the claim that, like, the Black Myth Wukong devs turned down something. That didn't happen. It was made up. Like, nobody fact checks anything because they don't have to. Everyone will ravenously clamor around those videos, scream at the sky that they're ruining our games, or these companies are this or that or whatever, and then they just move on to the next video. Like, there's no substance there. There's nothing at all. It's just completely fabricated nonsense. People are complaining there's no character creator in the new Fable game when Fable never had one. You picked a set hero to start with, but the idea that you could do people thought you could do like a full body custom. I started saying that about Fable because I saw people saying you'll be able to make your own character in Fable. You won't have to play as the girl in the trailer. So I just started repeating that because I thought, yeah, you'll be able to make your own character. But now people are saying, no, you can't do that. You'll just pick a set. So she's probably the female that you can choose, and then there'll be a guy you can choose. There'll be a male and a female character to choose from, but you won't be able to, like, change their appearance, is what people are saying. Let me get this straight. SBI approached a Chinese dev, demanded $7 million because they didn't pay SBI. They've now coordinated with media to run negative pieces on the game. And people think that that's a plausible thing that happens. Boo, no character creator. It's annoying, Lono, to keep having these conversations every time the game drops, especially when people are making up crap like this. I mean, I'm not even having the conversation. I'm telling people it isn't real. I'm not even engaging with it. Like, I'm just immediately denouncing it as false. It's like, why? There's no conversation to be had. It isn't true. SBI is Sweet Baby Inc., the company that started all of this, because there were press conferences and conversations and things that they had said, and they had people, you just complained about not fact-checking? Right, there's a big difference between me saying, BPM, that you'll be able to create your own character in Fable because I saw a bunch of people saying it. That's not the same as not fact-checking an inflammatory story and running with headlines and thumbnails. Do you really need me to educate you on the categorical difference between me offhandedly saying a few times, you'll be able to make your own character in Fable? That's not even remotely the same as somebody lying to the public and running with stuff that isn't true. The fact that I've even had to say the things that I've said in the last 45 seconds is embarrassing for you. Come on. It's not the same at all. I didn't run with a headline that said, you'll be able to make your own character in Fable. Be quiet, crybabies. I was like, I don't see what the big fuss is all about. You don't have to... I actually think, for the most part, I always just said, you won't have to play as the girl. You'll be able to play as your own character. I thought you'd be able to, like, pick your own character. Well, that's roughly true. You won't have to play as the girl if you don't want to. You don't have to pick her. Just because you can't go in and change like every jot and tittle of the character, okay, maybe I had that part wrong, but you still, it's the substance of what I was saying is true. If you don't want to play as that character, you don't have to. They're not going to make you play as the girl in Fable, which was the entire point of what I was saying, is like, they're going to make you play as her. And they made her look way better anyway. Like the first trailer, I'm not talking about being pretty. She literally looks better. Like the character and the quality and the lighting, everything looks better now. It's like they've completely changed. Still not fact-checking, but okay. Look what happened with Kill the Justice League. Sweet Baby had their hand on that game. WB is losing money. But that's not why Kill the Justice League failed. That's not why Kill the Justice League failed. Like, you could go in and remove all influence that Sweet Baby Inc. had on Kill the Justice League, and that game would still be in the gutter. It wouldn't have changed the quality of the game. The gameplay is what people rejected. You remember the original trailer, right? That they dropped, they got massively downvoted, and they basically delayed the game. You remember that, right? Like, a quick little trip down, memory lane with that game. That game didn't fail because Sweet Baby Inc. said you should put a pride flag in the Hall of Justice. Like, that's not why that game failed. It isn't. To think that's why it failed just betrays complete and utter ignorance. Like, you're just thinking, you're not thinking good. You're thinking well. Be a good thinker. Seriously, be a good thinker. Think well about these things. You're getting duped into these nonsense positions. It's like, Kill the Justice League failed because the game itself is not good. They didn't hand you off into a live service content loop in a good way at all. They didn't. If that game failed because of Sweet Baby Inc., then, oh my gosh, then that means what? Everybody combed over Reddit and Twitter and YouTube and got angry about the info card on Wonder Woman and the fact that Harley Quinn rejected her outfit. Like, there's no way. The vast majority of people who rejected that game rejected it because the gameplay was bad or the live service elements didn't click, whatever the case may be. That's not why that game failed, because they consulted with some company. It was Sweet Baby, though. The game's writing was bad, the characters were treated poorly, and more. This was Kevin Conroy's last game. Yes, and you're speaking for him when he spoke for himself, which is incredibly disrespectful and gross. Maybe you could go write for IGN since they did the same thing. It's gross. You don't get to talk for Kevin Conroy. He spoke for himself. He was excited at the prospect of voice acting an evil version of Batman. He liked the idea. He thought it was good. And the writing in the game, for the most part, was actually totally fine. Most of the sequences were good. It was good storytelling. That was one of the things that frustrated a lot of the fans of Rocksteady. They were like, most of these scenes are good. Most of these interchanges are funny. They're good. But then everybody got angry because like all the Justice League got killed, and the way that they killed them was disrespectful. And it's like, that you can have that opinion, but that wasn't this like, oh, this consulting firm came in and ruined the game. They had a good game on their hands until those guys showed up. What? No, that's not at all what happened. They named the game Kill the Justice League. Like from the very beginning, it was going to be a bizarro story about the Justice League being all corrupted and being killed. Like we knew that's what it was going to be about. It wasn't like they came in and said, we'll do it in a disrespectful way and shoot them on a park bench because we think that would be good. It was quite literally the goal of the game was to do that, was to kill them. Like that was what the game was called. I think we're on the wrong side of Kill the Justice League when it comes to Sweet Baby Inc. I believe we'll bear out that their influence on the game was detrimental. I believe the devs have already spoke to this, so what you're saying simply can't happen, Kirk. I don't believe the devs talked about when they were brought in. They were brought in after the fact. Sweet Baby Inc. came in after the fact. They weren't there at like the foundational choices that company made. The foundational choice of that company, go back and read the press releases, go back and look when they were initially starting talking about the game. Sweet Baby was brought in late stage. The devs talked about this. They weren't there at the beginning. You literally can't have, unless the devs just flat out lied because of the bad press surrounding Sweet Baby Inc., unless the devs just flat out lied. They did not make them make a terrible looter shooter in a world that wasn't made for a looter shooter. They're not writers. They advise companies on diversity, sensitivity. Devs don't hand the game script to them. Excuse me. Yeah, I think if you think that consulting firm affected the gameplay of that game, I think you don't understand what they did and what they contributed. You're also assuming that the developers didn't have some of those as their own ideas. Have you ever listened to any of these devs talk? Have you followed any of these devs on their Twitter accounts? Do you know what part of the world some of these devs live in? A lot of these devs are already progressive and already think some of those things. It's not like Sweet Baby Inc. walked in the room and clubbed all of these people over the head and said, well, you better make the story like this. Like, there's a reason you're having a surge of trends in games of certain elements, and it's not just because of these consulting firms. It's also because some of these devs genuinely believe the things that they're putting in the games. They think it's good. I'm not saying it leads to good games, but what I'm saying is Rocksteady built that game, and it's on them. It's not mutually exclusive. The game is poorly designed, Destiny-like, but also its efforts toward inclusion and representation were ill-founded and will all fall completely flat. What in the world are you talking about, though? What are you talking about? What in Kill the Justice League did that? Their efforts toward inclusion and representation? With what? What are you talking about? The biggest problem with Kill the Justice League is the game mechanics. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, and didn't Jason Schreier, here's another problem with what you're saying, Kirk. Jason Schreier from Bloomberg did a post-mortem on that game. And you know what he said? Nothing that he unearthed pointed to Sweet Baby Inc. having any of the causality of the game's failure. He quite literally roasted up a guy on Twitter about this. Like, he literally roasted him up. He was like, this isn't true. They had nothing to do with the direction of this game. That's not what they do. That's quite literally not what they do. Like, you literally bring them in to say, we're doing this. Are we doing a good job with this? And yeah, they might have influence on writing or certain lines or things that end up feeling quote unquote woke. But that is not why that game failed. We have literal quotes from the devs. The studio is mismanaged. The Sefton Hill, that Sefton Hill was to blame. Yeah, we have an entire post-mortem from Jason Schreier. It's like when people say that Anthem died because it was a live service game. And it's like, no. Go read Jason Schreier's post-mortem on Anthem. Anthem died because they built it in like 18 months. And they had no idea what kind of game they were going to build even during development. It even changed ideas during development from like being survival with weather systems to like, there was something else they were going to do. And then it ended up landing where it did. But people want to be like, yep, Anthem live service games suck. And it's like, but that's not why Anthem died. It's the same type of argumentation to be like, well, Kill the Justice League died because SBI came in and ruined the game. It's like, and it doesn't matter if some guy does investigative reporting and gets all of this commentary and all these quotations from the devs that point to completely different causes as to what led to that game's downfall. And people will be like, no, it was Sweet Baby Inc.'s fault. Jason's the last bastion of any semblance of gaming journalism professionalism. I don't know, man. I'll stick to reading things for myself. I'm not sure if you're paying him a compliment or not. I'm not sure what you're saying. His info and reporting is really solid. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of him either, but he clearly gets the scoop on stuff. It's becoming the gaming boogeyman at this point. That's what I'm saying. It's like every single game is being oh well, yeah, that's going to make it bad or it's going to flop because of that. I'm not particularly concerned whether SBI is responsible directly. What I'm saying is taking characters that are core staples in a franchise and drastically modifying their core traits is ill-founded. Who did they do that to? What character did they do that to? I would need examples. Look what happened to the Joker. He's not like Logs. He was new Joker. He feels off. Yeah, he's a different Joker. He's from another universe. They literally address that in the thing. In the game, he's not. That's not the Joker. Like, what are you talking about? It's a different person. So of course he can be whatever they want him to be. They didn't retcon Mark Hamill's Joker. That's just a different one. What are you talking about? I'm not going to defend that Joker, by the way. I didn't think he was very good. At first I thought, man, he might be able to pull it off. And then the more I saw, I was like, nah, I don't really like him. But that doesn't mean they're retconning Hamill's Joker. Yeah, he's like an alternate universe Joker. Like, the minute they made that decision with their game, they could do whatever they wanted. They could pull in anybody and make them weird or crazy. Mr. Freeze, Joker, and to a lesser extent, Harley Quinn. I guess you've not seen Mrs. Freeze leaks, but Mr. Freeze is dead. Didn't he die in one of the games? Mr. Freeze, that's not Mr. Freeze. It's a different character. And no, I don't agree with Harley Quinn's character change. She's on a character arc. She's no longer a sidekick. She's like, I'm doing my own thing now. I still felt she was still constantly making dirty and sexual innuendo jokes throughout the entire game. She saluted the dude's junk because it was so big. Like, that's still Harley. I don't know. We're way off in left field. We're not talking about the subject matter at all. But I do not think at all that they're changing characters. They created, whether you like it or not, they created a multiverse setup so they could do whatever they wanted with characters and just have them be crazy and weird, and it wouldn't then be stepping on like the previous versions. They would just be completely random versions because they're from another universe. It's like watching What If of Disney. On Disney. It's like watching Marvel's What If. It's like they're not retconning anything. They're not changing characters. They're just giving you, crazy weird universes where somebody else is, where the Black Panther is, I forget what they did with him. Did they make him Iron Man? All I'm saying is the Joker was not very good. I'm not trying to make an overarching statement beyond that the inclusion representation efforts made the game suck or not be compelling. I mean, I'll go with Schreier's article and what devs that actually worked on the project think, not conjecture from the sidelines of like, well, this is going to come out and we're going to learn more. We just did. Like, you could maybe say what you're saying if Schreier's article hadn't come out, and maybe he could have come out with an article that happened, that like there was internal tension at the company and people were really wanting to put, you know, almost like agenda political driven stuff in the game and blah, blah, blah. But like, that's not what we learned. We learned that it was a mismanaged studio and a mismanaged project. It's like the Anthem situation. We have a very clear picture of what happened from Schreier's post-mortem. We don't need to speculate. We just don't. I don't think there's no reason to. There's no benefit to doing that. You weren't the only one saying the Joker wasn't very good. The Joker not being any good is like the smallest amount of contribution to that game's failures. Like, they literally could have pulled Hamill out of retirement and pulled that Joker back in somehow, and it wouldn't have saved the game. It wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have. I'll wait for the article that clearly proves the game was ruined because of the flag. But they have changed Harley. They changed the design of her. The writing for her was basically like, why is she acting like this? We're basically changing Harley Quinn. But they didn't change Harley Quinn. Her character is going through life. Like, if you play a game and the character becomes more dark and more angry and more vengeful, do you say they're changing the character? No, you don't say that. Like, by the end of a character's arc, if they're more, like, for example, in Breaking Bad, did you get like really upset in the final season when you're like, oh my gosh, they made Walter White so stupid and selfish? And no, that he was on a journey. From moment one, he's not going to stay the same because he's on a journey. So like Harley Quinn changing after everything that had happened, like, think about the character and the lore. The idea that you think you're defending the character and you're not defending the character, because the character's lore quite literally makes sense that she would be different by the time she shows up and kill the Justice League. You want her to be like bouncing around like lighthearted, goofy Harley? That wouldn't make any sense anymore. She's not in that environment. She's not like goofing around, sidekick to the Joker, playing pranks on Batman. She's on her own now. She's not this like psychologically disturbed person that was manipulated by the Joker into like being his sidekick. Like, I don't actually think... Yeah, exactly, Billy P. It's like the people that argue that they changed Kratos. It's like, no, Kratos is on a journey. If you like the fact that Kratos is different and there's a deep-seated wisdom melded with his anger and his rage at the end of the Valhalla DLC, if you like that, then you have to be okay with characters changing. What I think happens is I think people self-report. It's like, you wanted Harley to stay two-dimensional eye candy, and the fact that she's not that and Kill the Justice League, you're like, they're changing Harley. And it's like, okay, but you could play through God of War 2018 and then God of War Ragnarok, and you could actually track the changes of the character. And if you like that, that's called character development. But it's like, we don't like it when it's Harley for some reason. I don't get that. Can we please stop this conversation? You're not in charge of anything other than your own choices right now. You could leave if you don't like it. You don't get to dictate what we talk about here. The game version better reflects her recent comic version. We wouldn't say Rocksteady changed Harley. Harley's development through Suicide Squad campaign was really well written. I much preferred new Kratos. Yeah. Me when characters grow and change. What the F is this? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just think people self-report. They're like, well, we wanted her to stay two-dimensional and bouncing around in a revealing outfit. And it's like, that wouldn't have worked in a game where she's a playable character with a ton of dialogue and scenes. Like, it works when she's like out of the frame for most of Batman games, and then she enters the frame. She's like, Mr. J, and she's like bouncing around. You're like, oh, here comes Harley, and she's gonna hit somebody with a mallet. Like, that works when that's her contribution to the story. That's all she's really there for. But when her contribution to the story is to be a main character, it wouldn't have worked. Like, what are you gonna, that's all she's gonna do? It would have been boring. It'd have been like, okay. I didn't think the story was stellar, but I thought the story was fine. I thought the story wasn't the main problem. The main problem was the content loop. Where was the outrage at the Harley Quinn cartoon show? Yeah, I don't. I painfully listened to somebody this morning, and I don't know, I don't even remember who he is. I don't know his name, but he had a large channel, and his videos tended to get, you know, good viewership. And he literally did nothing but talk about how everything that's coming out, everything shown at Summer Game Fest and all these things, everything is slop. He was angry at every game if it featured a dark-skinned woman as the lead character. Like, and I was like, that's where this is coming from. Like, there are pockets of the internet, there are YouTube channels, and there are circles that basically hate everything that isn't like specifically for them. It's like, if it's not specifically for me, it's trash and it's garbage. And it's like, I don't think that way, because when I look at games, like whether it is Tomb Raider or whether it's God of War, I'm more interested in the gameplay. Like, I don't care what the, like, oh wow, this character is a woman or this character is a lizard. It doesn't matter to me. If the gameplay is good, that's not who it is, Mario Heat. I would never watch that garbage. This was just like somebody basically going against every game that came out. Like, basically it was all the women are ugly, and, you know, all these characters are not white men. And it's like, that's not what I look for in a game. I don't think I ever looked for that in a game. I was never like, yo, this gameplay looks really good, but I really need the main character to take his helmet off. I got to see if he looks like me. Like, I just never, that was never my driving reason to play a game. You know? I was like, well, the game looks good, but can you take the guy's helmet off? I want to see if he's a white guy. Like, I just don't care. It doesn't matter. Kevin George, that's the video. That's the video. Yes. I was like, I literally just kept listening because I was like, I thought it was satire for a second. I was like, this has to be satire. This can't be real. But the further it went, the more I was like, oh. I was like, this isn't just angry people on Twitter. Like, there are literal content creators and communities now that's it. Everything sucks. Everything's bad. It's like the opposite of the Lego song. The opposite of everything is awesome. It's everything is terrible. And I honestly think that some of these people have gotten to the point that they've rage baited themselves out of gaming. Like, they don't care about gaming anymore. Like, every game sucks. Every game is lame. You know, every character isn't pretty enough. And I'm like, man, I don't even know if you play games and like them anymore. I don't know if you can. Everything looked mid, or it's kind of like, if you've ever been around young teenagers to mid-age teenagers, like 13 to 15, and nobody wants to be excited anymore. Being excited about something is lame or embarrassing, so they're always hesitant to like get involved or do something fun. They're like, oh, this is lame, right? Everybody's got their arms crossed and they're like, you know, talking in a mumbled, complainy way, because they don't want to put themselves out there to be seen as like, well, I don't want anybody to think I actually have fun. That's what it feels like. It's got that energy of like, everything's lame and I couldn't possibly admit that something looks good or be excited. You know, it's like there's this constant, it's like living in a state of fear is what it feels like to me. It's like you're totally terrified of getting made fun of or getting called cringe. Like that's like a nightmare situation. So you basically just call everything terrible. Nothing looks good. Everything is trash. Everything is woke, or everything is this or that. And it's like, I just feel like you're living in a state of perpetual fear. It doesn't feel like you're actually genuinely saying anything that you believe. I think the social commentary about games has exploded. People will cry and complain, and yet these woke games still sell well. Obviously they don't, but it's deeper than just woke. I think if a game sells poorly, if you're like, this is probably the steep irony in it, okay? Is they feel like it's like this cheap pandering, and it's like this two-dimensional way of thinking, right? Oh, you're trying to pander. You're trying to pander. Right? And I think they think very one-dimensionally about it. And they're like, well, if a game fails, it's because it tried to pander. And I'm like, it's always going to be more complex than that. If a game genuinely tried to pander and it ruined the story and it ruined the game and it made the game bad and it made the game boring or it made the game, you know, unenjoyable or whatever, then it failed because it was a bad game. Now, that's a related cause, but like you could have a game that has like an agenda of like, yeah, we wanted to have representation, but what if it ends up being an amazing game? Like, what if the gameplay is really good? And they just elected to have like a diverse lead character. Like you can have a diverse lead character and still make an amazing game. But right now it's like everybody's, not everybody, but like these pockets are talking as if like that's not possible. So, guys, we're going to shift gears in a couple of minutes. We're just 8 shy of the 25. Let's try to slam home that 25 before we go to the thing with Kirk, because I don't want to have to deal with, like, tracking that during a show with him. We usually just talk about the game. So I'm going to need to set up that scene with him and get him on here. I want these Fable trailers as well. We're going to be talking about Fable, and I want to kind of walk through the history with him and why I need the original. Yes, I need the original. And then I need the original. I need all of the trailers here. Let's do this and get the controls off. I'm going to set these to 1440 because I don't want them to like buffer. I need to switch this one because I think I switch this one to 4K. Some of these videos, when I have them running at 4K, they end up like not working very well. Get the likes up. Yeah, you guys make sure and smash those likes. We're going to be ending this stream very, very shortly here. I just need the original Fable. Here it is, the original Fable announced trailer. I'm just trying to give a timeline here. Okay. And Mash drops the 10 bomb and says, let's get the 25 like it's nothing. And he bumps us to 27. This guy needs a couple of tag team partners. He has been carrying the member count on his back. I'm going to give the 5 I owe you. Let me get Kirk on the call here as well. Start the video call. Pop out. And then I'm going to go. I forget what I do to make it frame properly. What up, what up?
What's going on? I'm sorry I did that.
We were already going there anyway.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I hate when it's my fault, though.
It's close enough to the end of the stream. Doesn't matter. Like, if you'd have done that 30 minutes into my live show, I'd have been like, what the frick are you doing, bro?
I wouldn't have done that.
Where's the image? Here it is. Browse. 2 Too wide, Kirk. And then we go here. And then I think we just, I don't know if we have a Fable one, but I think we have an Xbox one. Yeah, this will be fine. Oh, all the crops are wrong. I'm going to need a new one.
Kirk, the sorry I did that gamer. Yeah, Patrick. Don't get Dan on me now, Patrick. Dan will come in here and give me a life lecture.
Dan?
God, Kevin. Hey, Mike. That's a good one. I like that. That's a shout out from, that's a callback from Friday. Or whenever, was that Friday? Yeah, I think it was Friday.
Hey, Mike?
He looks different today. Remember, me and Mike were doing a bit about how we look the same if I could grow a beard, and I was.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Mike's a good sport. What did y'all get in an argument about on Friday? It was multi-plat. I was driving in my car, like screaming at both of you, like, this is such a dumb semantic argument.
Yeah, it was, and
for like 25 minutes.
It put on display what I was talking about, though. I was like, chat's all angry, and we're not seeing eye to eye. And I was like, this is quite literally proving my point.
You were both right. Like, he was arguing the literal use of the term cannot be argued. If it's on multiple platforms, then it is multi-platform. And you were like, yes, but using it in that way has no value. Like, you're not communicating any information. And I'm just like screaming in my car, like, yes, you're both correct.
You're both right. Shut up.
You can both be right.
My son always does this thing. He gets in between my wife and I. We don't have real arguments in front of them. If we're going to have a disagreement, we wait and we do it later. But if we're like playfully, arguing about something, he'll like.
Paul's Gaming Live says you can drive at age 14.
Yeah. He'll like get between us though. He'll like put his hands up and he's like, ladies, you're both pretty. I'm like, where did you learn that?
Oh, wow. Little comedic sense on that one.
Yeah, he thinks he's funny.
That's not bad.
The heck is my browser doing? There we go.
I might get mad at you today, Lono. We'll see.
I've got show notes and stuff that I'm going to use here. We did a lot of research into the history of this game, so I'm not just like, oh, it looks bad, I'm hating it. It's like, yo, what the frick is wrong? Why don't you guys show us more? Okay. I was happy though. The video you sent me, Digital Foundry. They basically confirmed that there's no gameplay in the dadgum trailer. They're like, they said, I can't wait to see gameplay, and I was like, thank you.
So I did catch that. I did catch that, but that was at the end of the video. What he was saying was like, I want to see how it plays. Not necessarily. He wasn't necessarily saying that was not gameplay.
Right.
In the video, they say like, oh, they're clearly walking up to a vendor here, and they're acknowledging or they're accepting it as like actual gameplay in the game, what they showed. But I think he was just like talking about how whenever they go into a combat sequence, the camera's kind of panning around, or it's like showing it from like an off angle. Clearly an engine, and clearly it's the game running, but it's like you're not seeing it from like a no HUD, gameplay perspective of like you're actually have a controller in hand and this is what you would see. And so I think he just wanted to see like the uninterrupted. They even mentioned South of Midnight, I think. So we've used that as kind of like the standard from SGF of just let it run, So I think they want to know like what does it feel like to play this game. I don't know that they were necessarily making a comment of like that is not real gameplay that we're seeing, but
their breakdown of the tech proves it isn't.
You want to cannibalize the show some more?
Yeah, I am. Oh my gosh, I'm guilty of it right now. Okay. Okay. Give me a normal volume sentence, because I made some changes in OBS.
I always come on here with the best takes, and no one could ever argue differently.
Okay. I guess we are talking about Fable, so feel free to tell fables about yourself. Hey, oh. Anyway.
Hey.
That was terrible.
Guess we see where your kid gets it from.
Oh, well done. All right. I'll be right back, chat. We're going to be talking Fable. We will redirect to the new stream. And I'll keep the daily goal up so you guys can see it if you guys want to push it during the show. I usually try not to draw attention to it because we're just, trying to talk and chill. But if you guys chat, super chat or have comments, we will definitely try to include those in the show as well. I will be right back.
I did get a haircut, Sadiqa. I was wondering if somebody would notice. It actually looks worse with my headset on, I think. Because it just looks like I have no hair on this side. But it looks a lot better than it did. Like, it was super long. I think it was the Xbox. I think it was the Xbox showcase. Not showcase. The CEO. When we did the If I Was CEO thing. It was just like all in the back. Like, just like anytime I would turn my head, it was just like. Just this mess of hair in the back. It looked terrible. AKA Brad Pitt. Donnie, you just like do bits, like you just make up bits and like nobody knows what they are. Like like it's just for you. Like I don't even know. Like me being the CEO of the Suicide Squad fan club, like I don't even know what that's about. I just came on here and trolled Lono, I guess, by crapping on Suicide Squad. Thank y'all. I think it's an improvement. Which hair was it? I knew the consultant woman was coming at some point. Again, my retort to that is you can't even get one? Just one? That's how I do. There's only one Donnie. No, I do stuff on Twitch still. Yeah, I'll probably end up playing V Rising at some point on Twitch. A haircut. What I have from KFC? Fried chicken, Donnie. What do you think? Kirk, they consulted a woman before creating Harley Quinn and Mrs. Freeze. I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was talking about. But that doesn't mean that consulting a woman is bad. Like, I'm just trying to bring nuance to the discussion. I think saying that diversity, inclusion, and representation can never detrimentally impact a final product is completely unnuanced and is not true. And I think saying that diversity, inclusion, and representation will always negatively affect a final product is a terrible opinion, because that's not true either. I think there has to be some nuance. Like, if we can't quantify and qualify diversity, inclusion, and representation to the extent that we can understand how much of it can make a medium good and how much of it can start to make the end result, like in cinema and games, etc., bad or worse. It's not just going to make it bad, but like slightly worse. Then we can't begin to have a real conversation about it. It's just people yelling at each other from two sides of a wall, basically. And I'd like to have a more nuanced discussion about it, I think, because I believe in productive discourse and not just yelling. My weekend was good, Sir Gabby. Thank you for asking. Oh. I did consult a woman on my haircut, Wolf Saints. That's why I look so good.
Okay. Thanks for 5 months, Alex. Appreciate you. Okay. Guys, I'm going to put a link in chat. That is where we are headed. I will also redirect you. Do me a favor when we get over to the new stream. Go crazy on that like button, man. Those first 100 likes really help.
Oh, yeah, I need to do that. We have 3... Oh, no, this is the last stream. Never mind. Not bad. But we got 300 in here, so we could make that 350.
I'm seeing 420. All right. So, yeah, we should get a good number to go over. get a good number of you to go over here, all right?
No.
It'll be good. I think it'll be a good discussion, because
Did they consult monkey deities for Black Myth Wukong?
Yeah, I know. That's really presumptive of them.
That's pretty good.
All right.
Oh,
all right.
damn it. See y'all in the next stream.
Thanks so much for checking out this video where we are going to be discussing Fable after it had what I felt like was another even better looking trailer at the Xbox Showcase. I was left asking the question, when are we going to get to see this game? Why are we still getting what I feel is simulated gameplay and not genuine, raw, uncut gameplay? And continually compared it to other games that I felt like did a better job showing us actual gameplay. And I'm coming from a Wukong stream, and they've been showing us gameplay for 4 years, and that game is just around the corner. So be sure to check out the Wukong coverage. The previews hit. I ran through the previews, and I also talked about how I think it's going to face some challenges if it wants to get a Game of the Year nomination. So I'm going to end that Black Myth stream. I'm going to redirect people over here, and I'm going to be talking with Kirk. And as I'm doing this, guys, make sure you smack that like button. Kirk, thanks so much for joining.